Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I have had such a lovely day today. I'm filming on a Sunday and I have found myself on my own once again, and I think I mentioned this last time I filmed. It's a little unusual for me to be on my own on the weekends, but just the last 2 weeks the schedules have just kind of worked out that way. But it meant that I got to just wake up in my own new space today and just have like a really beautiful, slow, relaxing yet equally productive Sunday. And tomorrow, Monday, is a holiday here in Ontario. It's family day. Not that anyone actually spends it with their families. So it's a holiday, which is great. I don't have to go to work, which means I have one extra day of the weekend to just do whatever I want. I think there might be some snowboarding in the calendar, which is really great. But up until now, I think it's around maybe 3 p.m. I've just had such a great day and I'm just feeling so good. I've done laundry, I've vacuumed, I've had my coffee, I've had additional tea. I have been knitting and watching a show, which I'm actually going to talk about a little bit today because I think it's just kind of where my head has been at generally over the past month or so, and therefore is relevant. And I'm actually filming during the day when there is daylight, which I don't know if it's actually affecting the final result of how the video looks, but I do have, it's not sunny, it's overcast, but I still have like a nice amount of natural light coming in through this window that is now beside me. And yeah, I'm excited. And I just wanted to kind of hop on and film, and I think we're gonna really just do a little bit more makeup playtime today. I don't really have a specific direction that I want to go in. I pulled some things out, kind of old and new, a little bit of shopping my stash. But I think to start, the first thing that I want to do is just finish my skin prep. I literally just washed my face maybe 10 minutes ago. So I have just my moisturizer on, which means I want to go in with just a little bit of eye cream because I am going to be using a different concealer today. So I want to make sure that my under eyes are just really nice and hydrated. And then of course I will be adding on some sunscreen. And given that this apartment has so much natural light, I actually do feel like I just need to be wearing sunscreen all day, even if I'm not going anywhere, because there's so many windows. It's wonderful. So to start with, I am going in with this new product to my rotation. This is the Cocoa Kind Revitalizing Eye Cream. Now, I have been wanting to get my hands on this for quite some time, but here in Canada, if you are shopping in an actual physical location, specifically Shoppers Drug Mart, not all of them have the same stock, but it just so happened that my local Shoppers actually had this product, had quite a lineup of Cocoa Kind products, which is so exciting. So I picked it up because the other eye cream that I was using was just a huge disappointment, and I wanted something that was just actually doing something, and I am really enjoying this so far. First of all, I love the color of the packaging. I will go over this whenever I film my next empties, but the actual like box that all the Cocoa Kind products come in now actually like list the like sustainability impacts of the like production of the products, which I just think is like really cool, and again just gives consumers a bit of insight into how products are made and what the actual companies are doing. But to the product specifically, so it is a squeezy tube, but it has a little metal angled applicator. So I'm just gonna squeeze out a teeny tiny bit and just go in with that under my eye. Now it's not like a super, I would say it's kind of like, in terms of thickness of this formula, like it's somewhere in between. It's not super, super thick, nor is it super thin and serumy. It's definitely a cream, but it truly is just so lovely. And with the metal applicator, like this just feels so nice. And I'm actually relatively well rested, even if my under eyes don't suggest that. But if I were poorly rested, this would feel even better. You know, if you have like a little skincare fridge, or just, you know, your fridge is close to where you do your skincare in general, keeping this in the fridge would probably be extra delightful. And then I'm going to finish off the skin prep with my Naturium sunscreen. And again, we're just going to pretend that this is an appropriate amount. It's not. And once again, I am also not moving my bangs out of the way, so just forgive me for all of the people whom that annoys greatly. There is really just something to be said for having a delightful Sunday all to yourself, where like you can actually get things done but not feel rushed or pressured or overly scheduled, especially when the next day is a holiday. I think that really adds to the whole feeling of being both relaxed and productive, because I don't have to finish everything by a certain time. Also, I apologize for my hair. I was trying something and they're not even, and they're exceptionally floppy. Before I kind of dig into the makeup, I am just going to do something for my lips. They're feeling particularly dehydrated. I don't know if I'm like coming down with something or I've just been suffering from a particular bout of allergies, but as a result, anytime that does happen, my lips get extra dry and I always feel a little bit dehydrated. But this has been something that since I picked it up like 2 weeks ago has been pretty much living in my backpack. It is the new RMS Lip Light, and this is the shade Rhythm. I'm obsessed with this. I love how it has that little like paint tube aesthetic to it, and it is actually like a little metal container. And this is such a lovely product. It does give a very gentle tint to the lips, but the actual formula is so hydrating, and I would say has definitely some staying power. So if you are looking for like a tinted lip balm that does both jobs, you know, hydration and a little bit of evening out in color, this is truly lovely. And I think it does have a little bit of a scent, but my nose is just feeling extra broken today, but instantly my lips feel rescued. And I think it just looks really pretty. I think that's probably the only thing I'm going to put on my lips today, but we shall find out. And then just to get it out of the way, we're gonna do my eyebrows with the usual Refi brow gel whatever thing. I know last video I mentioned that this was like really lasting a long time, and then this week I was like, oh, I think I've actually possibly hit the bottom. So we will be moving on to something else soon, I think. Only out of necessity, and because I don't really feel like spending 30 some odd dollars on an eyebrow gel at the moment. But this has been, I would say, absolutely like a favorite while I've had it on me. I don't even know where to start. I think I will maybe do some bronzer. I'm just feeling a little pale. So I'm gonna go in with my Tower 28 Bronzino in Best Coast. Now I am so beyond desperate to get my hands on the new Tower 28 product, the Sculptino, because it looks phenomenal, and obviously because it is meant of more of like a sculpting product, a contour, there is no shimmer in it the way that there is with the Bronzino. It is a matte formula. There are only 4 shades at the moment, but it looks absolutely stunning. And like I said, this is the shade Best Coast in the Bronzino, not the Sculptino, which is a little bit more, it like has a red tone to it, which is what and you know what, I didn't even go into concealer. My brain is scattered. So we're just gonna pause on that. Not that I was gonna go in on my cheeks, but I just was about to do this on my chin and realized that, duh. So we're just gonna take a little bit of a step back. I am actually going to be using my REM Beauty concealer today. I'm getting a little bit tired of the NYX Bear With Me concealer, not because it's bad, I truly love it, but I'm just bored. I'm bored now. I have been using that for so long now, and it needs to be done. So I have 3W and 6W, which seems like a relatively significant shade jump based on the names at least, but I think it will actually be okay. And I'm just gonna go in with 3W very, very lightly here under the eyes because I do feel like I just need extra brightening. And this is also why I went in with my eye cream so rapidly. And this time I never really do this, but I am putting some on my actual lids. I was feeling like they have been dark lately. And that might be too late, but I think it's fine. We're gonna do some stuff on the eyes. I don't even know what I was talking about. I just completely derailed my own thought process because I got distracted by the fact that I hadn't done this yet. And this is now the shade 6W for the rest of my concealing. Now I am premenstrual, as it were, so I am having just a little bit more of a breakout situation, especially on the chin, you know, the usual like kind of hormonal spots for me, which is always chin and kind of the little corners of my nose. I have not been using the REM Beauty concealer for a while again because I've been so focused on kind of a little project pan with the NYX one, but it is truly such a pretty formula and does such a good job. Does not feel too heavy. Like it's quite a full coverage. Like really sort of blanks my face out. And I'm also gonna just put some on this little spot here on my chest. Not that you guys can really see it because of how I have my camera set up, but I can see it in the mirror and it's driving me nuts. Okay, now I can return to my bronzing mission now that I am concealed. So the show that I have been watching, I'm on, I don't know, I have been plowing through it today. I think pretty much halfway through season 2, and it's well over a decade old now, so it's like how TV used to be, because it premiered on real TV with like 20 some odd seasons or 20 some odd episodes a season, which is nice watching shows like that in kind of today's realm of TV, because we have so few shows that come out with such long seasons. Everything is so short and sweet now, and sometimes if it's something that you really like, it's like too short. I'm gonna fix this, especially if they're a new show and there's only one season and then we just absolutely completely binge the crap out of it, and then we're just stuck in this like entertainment limbo because we don't know if it's going to be renewed. We don't know if we're going to get it back. And there's like this then paralysis after the fact because you've watched such an incredible show and you don't know where to go next, and you don't want it to end, and then you can't stop thinking about it, but it's like almost too fresh to rewatch it right away. But then I think that's why some of us like to just go back and rewatch our old favorites over and over and over again. Not just because there's like so many episodes in a season. And like if it was kind of more of a drama, we're looking at, you know, like 48-minute long episodes because it was, you know, on like an hour-long segment on the TV schedule. Whereas comedies, most comedies, sitcoms, etc. This is just not working. Most comedies were, and still are, I would say, like 30 minutes, 20, 24 minutes, whatever the actual, like the final number amounts to with commercials and everything taken into consideration. Again, this is like original TV, not current TV, because I would say that most shows now, especially for watching like an Amazon original or a Netflix original, it is truly, you know, half an hour or an hour because there are no commercial breaks, because we are paying for these things through our subscriptions versus them being paid by commercials. Whatever, this is so not the point. The current show that I'm watching, I think aired in 2008. It is a Canadian show. called Being Erica. And I would say that it's kind of like, if I were to compare it to anything, it's like a little bit Sex and the City in that it centers around a female protagonist who just happens to be kind of like in a creative industry. Specifically, she is a writer, and there is kind of this like overarching internal narration that happens sort of before and at the end of each episode. It also kind of has this like gentle, I would say, Ally McBeal feel to it, again because of this like internal female protagonist dialogue that happens. But there's also this like overlay of magic to it, and it's also a show that centers around a woman in her 30s, which I think is still quite a rarity. Most shows that really pick up are based on like teenagers or young adults. Obviously there are tons of shows that center around like more adult people, but I feel like specifically for shows that might be geared more towards a female audience, it is quite rare for the protagonist to be in her 30s. So it's really interesting watching this again as when I am the same age as the protagonist now. The first time I watched it, when it came out on TV, and it was like weekly release, I was 18, 19 years old, so like so young. And while there were certainly things that I could relate to with this character, I was nowhere near the same place in life that this character is. So now, as someone who is 32, watching a 32-year-old that also happens to be living in the city that I just came from and having experiences that feel so familiar to me in a landscape that is so familiar, is just a really interesting experience. And the show, I think it's like, I would definitely call it progressive. It really deals with sex and sexuality and coming of age when you are in your 30s, which is a whole different kind of coming of age than you experience like in your late teens as you're kind of leaving the nest. There is a whole different kind of coming of age when you're like in your late 20s, early 30s, I think. Because that's when I think you really start to figure out, or you really settle in on who you are. You spend all of your teenage years and all of your 20s figuring that out. But I don't think that we actually really sink our teeth into our true selves until we're in our 30s. And that's why it always kind of annoys me when everyone like just glamorizes and glorifies like teenagehood, because it's truly a hellscape. I'm also just looking here at what I'm gonna put on my eyes. I've pulled out two of my Rare Beauty, well, my only two Rare Beauty liquid eyeshadows, and I just haven't used these in such a long time. I have the shades Nearly Neutral and Nearly Berry, and I don't know, there was just something like really deliciously appealing about these today when I opened up my little makeup drawer, and I'm like really leaning towards the berry. I very rarely put like pink tones on my eyes, but I'm really loving the idea of this. But I also have my little M Cosmetics Divine Skies eyeshadow palette in, I think this one is Da Vinci. And this is the one that had a tragic episode when I had, I think, period hands, and it went flying and landed on the floor and cracked, which means there's a whole color in this palette that is completely gone, and it actually was my favorite one. It was the shade, I think, Sienna. And this is just such a beautiful neutral palette to begin with. So I was quite devastated when I lost this one. Like I tried to repress it, and it just, every single time I touched it or like moved it slightly, it just completely would crumble, and it was making my whole everything such a mess. But I think I might play with maybe one of the two shimmers in this, and very likely the dark brown here. If I don't do that, I've also pulled out my Milk Makeup Color Chalk, because why not? No one even talks about these anymore. And this is the shade Skateboard. and it is the kind of shimmery black, but I was kind of feeling like a black liner, so that's why this is here. The other product I have here is something from Jason Wu, which I feel like also no one talks about anymore. Everyone was talking about Jason Wu when they first came out, then it just kind of went quiet, and I don't know if that's like a quality of product thing or just a simple boredom thing because it maybe felt like a flash in the pan. Not sure. Needless to say, Jason Wu did just land in Shoppers Drug Mart, and so there was a whole end cap dedicated the last time. I was like, ooh. And these ones are called what are these? Something Fluff. I'll put the name here after when I'm editing, but it's something Fluff. And that just appealed to me as a name. And I like the packaging. It's just like soft matte. But I forgot, because it had been so long since anyone else was talking about this brand, that this product, which is meant for eyes, lips, and cheeks, is actually like a lipstick, which completely threw me off because I don't like that it's in the shape of a lipstick when it is something that is meant to be multi-purpose. Anyways, this might end up being my blush. I think it will actually be quite complimentary to the Bronzino. This is the shade Nutmeg Spice. And I feel like is pretty close to the other Tower 28 product that I have been using so often, which is After Hours. Anyways, I think we're just gonna start with the Rare Beauty. And I think I'm actually going to use both shades. I'm going to go in with Nearly Neutral just to kind of give myself some kind of base. And then I will go in with Nearly Berry. And it's been a really long time since I've used these, so kind of excited to play. Now, back to the show. I don't even remember if I said what the show is called. It's called Being Erica. And like I was saying, there's kind of this magic overtone to it because this young woman in her 30s, Erica, her last name is Strange. The show all starts off with like kind of a like very Bridget Jonesian, you know, a woman of a certain age who like can't seem to get her life together. Everything is falling apart. There's just like mistake after mistake being made. Wow, that is so pretty and like such a dream to blend out. Ooh, what a pretty base. And in the very first episode, I think maybe I relate to this very specifically because in the very first episode, she ends up at a coffee shop, orders or like gets a sample of some kind of latte, which happens to have hazelnuts in it, which she is like deathly allergic to, ends up going into anaphylactic shock, ends up in the hospital. And when she wakes up in the hospital, a gentleman comes in, introduces himself as Dr. Tom, and basically gives her his business card and introduces himself as a therapist who basically has a solution for her to kind of help fix her life's problems. I'm like, if only. Especially because there's no fee associated with Dr. Tom's therapy. I mean, no, there's a cost, but there is no fee. There is no financial commitment. There are many other kinds of commitments to Dr. Tom's therapy, but long story short, and I like don't want to spoil too much of it in case this sounds interesting, but essentially their therapeutic journey centers around Erica writing down a whole list of like every single regret she's ever had in her life. And Dr. Tom has the ability to gift her the opportunity to return in time to those moments. And she gets to relive them and like kind of try to fix it. Now, there are all kinds of time, space, continuum implications to that kind of time travel and like alteration of past, which really bothers the like physicist in me. Really irks me because it doesn't really seem to have much effect on her present other than like a personal sort of closure and resolution on each of these kind of recurrences. Needless to say, it's just a really fascinating premise because she does get to revisit these moments in her past. And it's like, how many of us have sat there like deeply regretting moments in our past and wishing that we had done something differently. But it kind of ends up being that even when she goes back with an intention and a very specific way in which she thinks she would have done things differently, the results often end up the same, which gives a whole different layer of complication to the idea, I think, of like predestination and how much control we actually have, and whether or not regrets are actually regrets when we can look at them with a certain amount of time and perspective, because there's obviously a reason for that happening the way it happened. There was a reason why the behavior from that version of ourselves, you know, occurred. It's been really, really fascinating to watch this show again as an adult who has done so much of her own kind of like self-discovery and therapy and kind of like reconciliation with my past and the person that I was, and, you know, ways in which I have behaved and ways in which I behave now, and the fact that the more time passes, it's like, are these moments in time actually regrets? Would I love to revisit some of them? Sometimes, maybe, but I would say on average, like, no. I have the kind of perspective on my past, and like recent past included self, where I'm like, I don't know that I would do anything different, because all of those things led me to this very specific moment in time now, and this very specific person who I am and who I'm so proud of now. And like, if I were given the opportunity to go back and like change some of these things, would the current version of me still be the same? Or would I actually be altering who I am now, potentially for the worst, because I've been given this gift of like redoing past events? I don't know. Very, very interesting. There's, I think, 5 or 6 seasons of this show, and it unravels further and gets a little bit more complex in terms of like what the actual intention is and what the cost of this kind of therapy is, and who Erica is going to become. But it has just been kind of an obsession of mine since I started watching it again. And we talk a lot about this on my channel, you know, like just kind of this introspection and self-discovery and self-actualization and learning to love yourself and coming of age in your 30s and starting to just really, truly, unabashedly love who you are and what you do and what you love and how you love and how you move through the world with like no shame, and just the only intention of this current person being that, you know, I am the best version of myself today, and like I may be better tomorrow, I may be worse, but all of that is totally fine and great and exciting and exactly how it should be. And that's just, you know, a revelation comparatively to kind of the outlook I had on life even just, you know, 3 years ago. Okay, I'm happy with the eyes so far. Nearly Berry is truly gorgeous, and I don't feel like it makes me look too sick. And I did go onto the lower lash line with Nearly Neutral, but now I'm just going to kind of finish off the lower lash line with the deepest shade of brown in my Divine Skies palette here, with a little teeny tiny angled brush. I don't really need the angled brush, it's just kind of what I picked up. There's not a huge need to be overly precise, but sometimes it is nice just to kind of get right onto the lower lash line rather than going too far beneath that. And I am just sort of placing the brush slightly past the lash line. I'm just like sort of starting to sketch out a teeny tiny wing as a little bit of a guideline for when I go on the upper lash. And as usual, I'm not going to go all the way across the lower lash line, kind of just about halfway, just stopping, I would say, like in the middle of my pupil. Anyways, I don't really know what the point of this is. It's just kind of like a current obsession of mine right now, is revisiting this show and using this show as a reflection point for my own life, obviously, because that's kind of what I turn everything into these days, is I am quite self-involved. I don't think in a bad way. I'm sure there are other people who would disagree, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with being introspective and, you know, striving every day to be a better version of you. And if you find things to which you relate in your life, and I don't think it matters if it's like TV or other people or books, whatever, there is something to be considered there, and, like, you know, take it seriously. I am now going into the more pink of the shades. I think this is Portrait. If the shades on the back are actually relative, it is this one right here. It's kind of like a gorgeous champagne shade that does have a pink shift to it, so I thought that that would be pretty, just kind of to place onto the center of my lid, just to give a little bit of more of a dynamic appearance to the eye look, change in texture. I think that's pretty. And last video, when I was using this brush, I kept mentioning that I was like, there are hairs on my face from when I cut my bangs. No, it's this. This brush is shedding on me. I find that incredibly irksome. I'm not gonna put anything on the inner corner except for maybe a little bit of my cheekbone beauty powder, but I do want a little bit more precision with that placement. So technically this is a lip brush, but I don't think it matters because it's clean. So I'm actually just kind of mattifying, but also it does serve to kind of brighten that up. Twofold purpose. And I'll probably go in with a little bit of powder afterwards, but now we're going to go in with the color chalk from Milk Makeup. It's really not the best product that has ever existed. I like the feel of chalk in my hand always, or like pastels, but it's still pretty much brand new because I really haven't used that much of it at all. So I'm just keeping it in the plastic just for a little bit more control, and just swirling my little angled brush directly onto the product. And then, like, that, I don't know how much you can tell, but there's quite a lot on here, and this brush is slowly losing its precision. It's starting to get a little frayed, so this is not at all going to be a perfect line. And similarly to the lower lash line, I'm not taking the black all the way in to the corner, really just keeping it to the outer corner and kind of into the center of the lid, again right around where my pupil is. Okay, and then just wiping off the excess and then turning the angled brush kind of upside down and sketching that just a little further out. It's almost too much of a wing, but that's what my complexion brush comes in handy for. I do still have this little nostril wound, which is just such a delight. It's so attractive having a nostril that continuously cracks and bleeds, and it's just, not to be too on the nose, but chock full of snot constantly. It's just, I'm such a gift. My boyfriend is so lucky. I mean, he is, but I mean specifically in this regard, just like, what a treat. There's nothing more attractive than a nostril wound. Okay, now good luck to me matching this. Maybe that's the right angle. I don't know. This is kind of why I don't really do liner, because I really struggle to get the angle of the dangle even, but I think that's even-ish. But I'm annoyed because on this eye, I did get some of the black a little bit too far up on the lid. So for anybody who is interested in taking a dive into this show, again, it is called Being Erica. If you're in Canada, it's available for free on CBC Gem. And if you're in other places, I have no idea how to help you. It might be available on maybe Amazon Prime if you're in the US. Otherwise, I don't know, you're just gonna have to kind of do a Google search and see what comes up, if anything. It's always frustrating when you find a piece of content that you really like that didn't really maybe reach like international fame. I think we have a little bit more trouble with this in Canada because we have the CRTC who kind of gatekeeps the kind of content Canadians can consume because we're so focused on Canadian content. So it's always hard for us to get access to stuff, and like Being Erica certainly did not reach the kind of international infamy that like Schitt's Creek did, for example. So if you are not local, if you are not a national viewer, I don't know how you will access it, but it's great. Highly recommend, especially if you are in, you know, your late 20s, early 30s, and have a thing for female protagonist-led dramedies. They are hour-long episodes. There is that kind of like sense of magic and sci-fi to it. And it's thoroughly enjoyable, and it just really touches on like so many great topics every single week. You know, sometimes there is that like levity that we all need, but because it's that like combo comedy drama, you just get a really nice balance of it all. And Erica as the main character is so deeply flawed, but that's what makes her great. Like no one's putting on airs about the quote-unquote perfect woman in this show at all. She is just like truly human who makes mistakes constantly in her past and present, and it's just, yeah, it's a delight. And there's lots of recognizable actors in it. If you're a Canadian TV watcher, there's lots of like Degrassi actors in it, obviously. Sarah Gadon makes an appearance several times. She's more of just like a recurring guest. But yeah, it's a delight. Highly recommend. Okay, I'm gonna do mascara, and then we will see how we feel about this Jason Wu Fluff or whatever it's called. But mascara is truly nothing new. It's just my Essence Get Big Lashes Volume Boost Waterproof. So we're just gonna skip through that. So when we come back, my lashes will be done. You don't need to sit through me doing my lashes. When you've already seen the product and the process, you deserve better than that. Okay, BRB. Mascara is on. I just did a couple coats, mostly because I'm not actually going anywhere as per usual. So the effort is kind of going to waste, and I don't want too much of a struggle when I wash my face at the end of the day. But I think I did like, what, 2.5 coats maybe? Very happy with the eye look. I think it's super pretty. I'm really liking the soft black eyeliner. It's not something that I usually do. I think, like I said in my last video, I've been doing like a really very basic everyday look if I'm even wearing makeup, because I've just been enjoying my bare face so much, and sometimes, you know, you just can't be bothered with the effort. But this is really pretty. I really, really like this look. Now for this Jason Wu Something Fluff in Nutmeg Spice. Now I'll do a swatch on the back of my hand for this shade. It is definitely what I would consider like a bronzer shade for me. If I had my Bare Minerals bronzer with me right here on my desk, I would say very, very similar in shade, although obviously this is matte. There is no shimmer in it. It's just really pretty and kind of a neutral, leaning warm, and it blends out really lovely. So I think that's actually going to be a nice complement to the Bronzino that does have more of a sheen to it. And I'm going to kind of follow suit with what I did last time and go a little bit more in like this triangle shape, kind of more cherub cheek vibe. And I'm just gonna take my Sephora brush, blush brush here, and just blend that out. And yeah, I do really like how it blends out. Like, it's very easy to blend. I don't find it patchy at all. Obviously this time I'm using it with a very, very differently textured product. Like, the Bronzino has a very specific texture to it. And so far, every time I've used this week, there has been really nothing else on my face. Like, it's just been this. So I'm not noticing any kind of unpleasant, annoying interaction, which is nice to see that it just does kind of cooperate. And I'm just putting a little bit more. Now, I'm sure I could have put this like kind of directly onto the brush or like back of hand and then brush, but I don't know that I'm going to use this on my lips, so kind of direct to cheek seems fine with me. It's not like I'm sharing the products with anyone, so I'm not really too concerned about like hygiene in that regard. I think it's pretty, kind of like very bronzed, and again, I don't think it clashes too much. Like, it is a different tone. It's very much warmer than the eyes, obviously, because I went in with the berry shade on my eyes, but I don't think that it really clashes. And I'm not going to put this on my lips. I was considering it for a very brief moment there, but I am just going to go in with another little dab of the RMS Lip Light just to bring back some of that shade. And because it has more of a berry tone, it will complement the eyes. And my nose is particularly shiny, so I am going to go back with my mattifying moon dust from Cheekbone, specifically for my nose. And a little bit on my chin. I don't have to be so shiny on my nose, you know? Okay. I think that is a very pretty look. Very happy with how that turned out. Having such a great time just doing makeup playtime again, especially in my new little setup, because I don't have to keep like tearing it down. It just gets to stay here. So I'm also finding that I've been doing my makeup here, which is nice, and just kind of like puts me in the zone. There is just truly something to be said for when you are kind of doing consistent filming on YouTube, having a dedicated space that you don't have to keep setting up and striking every single time. And that is, again, kind of a revolutionary thing for me. And in my previous space at my mom's, I just didn't have the ability to really do that. So it is nice, literally, being able to just kind of sit right down and get to it without having to do this whole prep and then tear down afterwards. And yeah, really, this just brought me so much joy today. It was just kind of a nice little addition onto an already really lovely Sunday, during which I've been having just a great time with myself. As I look out onto my new backyard and I see the little bunny footprints, it's just truly such a delight. And yes, thank you so much for being here with me, for sitting through my incessant rambling about nothing in particular, and just generally having a cute, fun time here. And if you're new to my channel and this is your first video of mine that you've tuned in for and you happen to make it all the way through, I'm so grateful for that. And if you liked what you saw here today and also had a cute, fun time, I would absolutely love for you to become part of the Land Fam. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. And for the rest of you wonderful humans who are here with me on a weekly basis, I am equally grateful for you. I love you so much, and you make what I do here worth it. Well, it's also just fun in general, but you know, I am just so appreciative of your constant support and presence. And with all of that being said, I'm going to sign off and get back to my couch and my knitting. So I will see you in the next one.